Hey guys, it's Dean. Welcome to the Better Man podcast. Today is a member interview. I've got Lee Hoy, who is a wildlife photographer from West Texas, from the mountains of West Texas, here to discuss his health and wellness journey. Lee, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me, Dean. Greatly appreciate it. Proud to be a member.
Yeah. So I love your story because you are such an atypical guy when it comes to men who do yoga. If you're looking at the back right now, you've got this huge beard, you've got this great cowboy hat on, you've got all the game that you've hunted in the background, and also there's some amazing photos that every now and then I get to see on your Facebook. I think some of the recent stuff. I saw a leopard recently.
Jaguar from Brazil.
Jaguar.
Right. Yes.
Okay. And you actually lead photography seminars in
I
these
do.
areas, right?
I do. I lead workshops all around the world. I love wildlife, landscape, macro, night sky photography. I've hit 5 of 7 continents. My goal in the next 2 or 3 years is to hit the last two, which is Australia and Antarctica. So I love what I do. I'm very blessed.
Wow. Yeah. So and those photos are really cool, by the way. You should go
Thank
go
you.
go look at some of them. So yeah. So and but based on some of what I've seen, I don't know if you'd still be doing this, frankly, if you hadn't changed things and changed the way that you were doing things. So I'd love it for you if you could take us back to what was your oh shit moment where you realized, okay, I've got to do things differently, or
Yeah,
just
yeah. So all my life, I mean, I was an athlete in high school, football, baseball, wrestling, track. I worked out
mm,
constantly and I developed some bad eating habits because, when you're working out 4 hours every day intensely, you kind of can eat what
yeah,
you want at age 16 through 20, right? Hit college, I was still very active, still lifted. And then late 20s, I actually went to seminary and so I'm working 4 10-hour days. I'm going to school full time, 2 small kids. I couldn't work out any, put on a lot of weight just sitting around studying, and hit my 40s and went through an unexpected divorce. And boy, the stress of that added a lot more weight to the point I ballooned up to just under 300 pounds. And I'm only 5'7". I'm very stocky, very solid, and I was
mm,
still active. Okay. So I was still active, but I then went through some career changes before I finally became around age 49. I finally did another career change, saying I'm ready to do what I always wanted to do, which is this photography. And in my late 30s, I became a CrossFit trainer, and I loved
mm,
lifting heavy. I loved the strenuous workouts, but I did experience the occasional muscle. Injuries. I would have to sit out for a little while. And, as you get older, you start thinking about injuries. And with my career, I'm very protective of my hands, my feet, my back, my eyes, because if I hurt one of those, I can't go in a workshop. I'm done. Stick fork it.
mm.
So I'm like, if I'm hitching a trailer, man, these fingers, I am OCD to begin with, and I am very OCD about protecting them. And I realized, man, you have to get in a lot of weird positions. If I'm in a boat, like photographing that Jaguar image where I'm down, actually, I don't know. Yeah, you probably saw the one where I'm down low and the Jaguar actually seems like it's above me. Well, I had to slide way down in a boat. To be honest, and Dean said, don't make this about promote Manflow Yoga, but when you hear my story, I can't help but do that. I one leg is sticking straight out because the seats were very narrow and the space in between them was very narrow. And I was able to slide and get as low as I could in the boat, have the strength to lean out over the edge and get my camera as low as possible. And one thing a lot of people don't know, because I don't talk about a lot, I have multiple familial lipoma syndrome. And what that means is right now I have somewhere between 2 and 300 tumors on my body. I've had over 225 removed through surgery from about age 20 up until a few years back. And anywhere from pea size, I've had up to baseball size removed. So that also means when I'm leaning against stuff, tumors are being pushed on blood vessels, muscles. When we do, Dean, when we're doing oh, good grief. I'm just blanking on me. When your feet are on the ground, you arch your hip up, and I'm on my back. Good grief, Dean.
Yeah.
What is that?
Bridge.
Bridge. Good
Bridge.
grief. Yeah,
Yeah.
bridge. Well, when you talk about pulling our feet and our shoulders together. I have a big tumor on the back of my left hamstring. I have to be really careful or it'll trigger a cramp. No matter how hydrated, no matter how much I'm supplement electrolytes, that tumor pushes on that. So I have to be super cautious when we do the one leg one. Oh man, I'll have to sometimes kick that foot out. So
Yeah.
I got to a point where because of my weight, because of my tumors, that I'm almost always in constant pain from a tumor somewhere. And I was like, man, if I don't make a change, some people get wheelchair ridden from the lipomas. And I was like, I love what I do. I mean, people ask me all the time, do I need an assistant? And I generally joke that either they're not blonde enough or big chested enough to be my assistant, But the reality is I get to live a great life, man. I live up here in the mountains, partially off grid, one of the best views in Texas. The weather is such, all my windows and doors are open with the breeze. It's like in the 70s. Well, how long do I want to keep living like that? How long do I want to keep doing my career, right? And it was funny. My ex-wife was a certified yoga instructor, and she was into a lot of the, pardon my French, frou-frou shit. And I could care less. I had no time for that nonsense, right? And when you look at most yoga pictures, it's thin young women in poses that would break my bones. And to be honest, Dean, probably 4 or 5 years ago, if you'd have brought up yoga to me, I probably would have made fun of it. Okay. And I
Hmm.
mean, I'm being dead serious, right? What the
Yeah.
crap would yoga do for me? Well, we went in this yoga store, I think called Blue Lotus in Ruidoso, New Mexico, for my ex-wife. And I looked down, and lo and behold, there is a book that says Man Flow Yoga. And I was like, and so I pick it up, and there's Dean himself, and I start looking through it. I'm like, you know what? This guy's talking about the exercise. There's no running your fingers around the rim of crap. There's no chanting. I'm like, ah, and I bought that book. I bought a non Manflow yoga mat, which I've since rectified. I bought a couple of small blocks and a strap, and I was staying in Cloudcroft, New Mexico, and I just started looking through your book, and I'm like, hmm. So I go online and I register to be a member, and I made the commitment as soon as I got back to my house. I started, and even in the beginners programs, and by the way, Dean, the way you structure your programs for me, and I believe for everybody, if someone says they can't do man flow yoga, well, they're just full of crap because they haven't looked at how you've laid out the programs, like the beginners fundamentals, like the intro, like you could literally lay down on the ground and do stuff, and you will be blown away at the improvement. So what I noticed right away, I also had been doing keto, and South America, it's kind of hard to stay on keto. And I came back at one point in July, this past July, and I said, I'm going pure carnivore. I would always have inflammation, my joints would ache. So the combination between Manflow Yoga and the new diet, my energy level, like if I knew about Manflow Yoga and carnivore diet when I was a teenager, I probably would have won state as a wrestler. I would have been a much better running back. I would have been a much better husband. I'd have been a much better father. I'd have been a much better lover. Holy crap, dude. I'm not going to go into graphic detail, but let's just say my life right now at 55 is nowhere near what I thought it would be. And the reality is my flexibility, but I'm able to grow muscle quick. But I would have been a fool making fun of yoga 4 or 5 years ago because the strength gains blows me away. And I've done so far since, so I did Manflow yoga. I did quit for a while that I talked to you about. I had some blood
Hmm.
clot issues, which I probably could have continued, but it just had me. I just didn't feel good at all. Right. So
Yeah. I mean, you got to take a break there.
yeah, yeah. But you know what? When I came back to it, I was like, golly, man, I lost a little bit. But
Hmm.
how quick you gain it if you I won't lie, there's times I get really pissed at you when you keep talking when I'm hurting,
Yeah.
which we all
Yeah.
talk about.
Yeah. That's
Everybody's in agreement, right? And not
right.
not that it would
That's part of the rite of passage.
not that
Yeah.
it would make the time that you're doing the exercise any shorter, but sometimes I'm hurting. You're like, oh, just shut up, Dean. But then you go, oh, God, but what he's telling me is really good. Like, I need to pay attention to those things in my body. So we can all relate to it. Like, it's like you have a love hate relationship with Dean. You're like, my God, this man has changed my life. But right now, I just want to be quiet so I can hurt and quiet. Um,
Yep.
so
Yep.
what's cool is most people my age can't keep up with me. They have a hard time when we're out in the field doing photography. And I'll be honest, I'm going to attribute that 100% to my diet and man flow yoga. And I'm not lifting right now, but it's important. I hold heavy equipment with my shoulders hunched forward, right? My neck at an angle, my back in weird positions, my leg in weird positions. Some days I'm standing. And man, it's just like God says, okay, you're going to need this workout the next day. And it'll be like, oh my gosh, this really takes care of that because I'm in the field in certain positions a lot. And then I'm seated right here in my office chair, editing
Hmm.
images and editing, or promoting workshops or trying to sell images, whatever it might be. And so oh, Dean, help me out. The little muscles here that connect
Your hip flexors.
my hip flexors,
Hmm.
man, those get so tight. Like you'll be doing lunges and I'll be like, mother of God, one day they feel phenomenal. And then the next day I'm like, it feels like I haven't been doing yoga. And
Hmm.
the way you balance it out, like I have almost zero soreness. Okay. So for people that want to work out, guys, where you don't like lifting heavy, man, there's days the next day you can hardly lift your arms. I don't, I can do my job. I can do my life with incredible endurance. I don't go do any extra cardio, and I can hike forever. I can sprint again. I couldn't sprint before. I don't go out and sprint, but I can if I need to. So the benefits really are pretty daggum impressive. And again, you're talking to a guy who would have made fun of this 4 or 5 years ago, a guy who would have poo pooed it. But because of your program, focusing on the exercise, making it, yeah, I may not be your typical guy doing yoga, but the reality is Manflow yoga is for every guy out there and for a lot of ladies, right? I mean, not every lady is built like the people you see on Instagram. So
Hmm.
that was a long answer to a short question, wasn't it, brother?
Yeah, and that concludes that concludes the interview. So yeah,
And get your 20% discount. No,
yeah. No, that was great. I think you give us a lot of stuff to talk about. And I think, yeah, knowing all that background about you and what you do with your body and how it's helped you, I think that's great. So I want to go back to when you first got started. So
Mhm.
when did you first start? What year? What month? Where are
That
we?
would have been June, I think, of maybe 2019 or 2020. I'm terrible at dates, but either June 19th or June 2020. I came back from Cloudcroft. I went there for Memorial Day weekend, and the force was closed due to wildfire issues. So was just spending more time in shops and stuff. And my aunt lives in Ruidoso, so ran up to see her. And that's when I went in that store. And
Hmm.
guys, if you don't own the book, and Dean has not asked me to promote. Dean just told me to tell my story. But if you don't own the book and you're not sure, you know what? Just give a look at the book and see how Dean stages things. Because baby, golly, I'm terrible. I can't remember crap right now, Dean. What's baby?
You're excited. It's okay.
Yeah,
What's
what's the
baby?
baby?
Happy baby?
Happy
Baby
baby.
pose? What? Happy
Well, I'm going
baby.
to
Okay.
tell you in the beginning, it's anything but happy baby. When you have T Rex arms and and you're 5'7" and you're a big thick guy, touching your foot seems like a freaking impossibility, right? But
Hmm.
this morning I did it. And when you begin, I have to literally grab my leg, pull my, and it you say don't let it get painful, brother. When you got T Rex arms, it's nothing but painful at the beginning. But the reality
Yeah.
is, when you get to where I can reach up and grab both my feet without having to do that, it's like I know I'm protecting myself from injury. I know I can get in better positions out in the field. I
Hmm.
know every aspect of life is going to be better because my core is better, right? I mean, that's what
Yeah.
design is. Let's strengthen our core. And so for me, when I hear people say, "Man, I don't know. I don't know if I can do this." Dude, you're talking to a man who, when I first started, both the first time in the very beginning and when I restarted, I'd lost a lot of that flexibility. So in the beginning,
Hmm.
what I noticed, like you'd say, okay, breathe this long, and I'm like, hell if I can, man. Breathing through my nose
Hmm.
was very difficult. I can go through most exercises. I just started 90 days to flexible, okay,
Hmm.
and I can still do almost all of that with calm, shallow breathing.
Hmm.
And another benefit, you're going to ask me this question about what else does Manflow Yoga benefit. Thank you, Dean. That's a great
Well,
question.
let's go. Hold on, I'm gonna
Okay.
pull you back. So
Okay.
let's go back to when you're first starting. It's
Yeah.
June 19 or June 2020, and you're just starting the workouts. So that first month, what, how was that for you in terms of, how difficult was it? When you encountered resistance or when it got
Mhm.
difficult, what did you tell yourself, and what enabled you to be let's break it down
Yeah,
question
that's
by
a good
question.
question. That's
So
a good question.
how did you stay consistent that first month despite the challenges?
So I'm a very disciplined guy. In order to be self-employed, when you're a wrestler, you learn a lot of self-discipline, right? So you get to the point. You know what happened? I got to the point where the consequences of my lifestyle outweighed the benefits of comfort food, of being
Mm,
comfortable, right? The consequences became too great. I mean, there were some nights in bed where drinking too much caffeine, I was having heart palpitations, not needing 8 hours of sleep, whereas now I need 5.5 or 6. The consequences of my lifestyle were greater than the quote unquote benefits of living that way, right?
okay.
So for me, I know I'm an early morning guy. Okay. So I knew that means I wake up and the first thing I do is I put on my yoga clothes, which are, my shorts, or if it's cold up here, it's tights, and try not to picture that, folks, but picture a cowboy wearing tights and it'll probably give you the exact response I'm thinking.
You know,
So
I've got a video for you. That's actually this. It's a super funny video. It wasn't meant to be funny, but it's this great video. It's called Cowboy Yoga, and it's this. Anyways, I'll send you the link. I'll put it in here when you get a chance. It is worth a watch.
I
It's
bet it
very
is.
funny.
I'll make sure to put those on with my hat and boots. How about that sometime? But when it's
Yeah.
cold up here, man, it gets pretty cold up here in the mountains. So I wake up and right behind me, I roll out my mat first thing, right? I fix a water, put my electrolyte packet in there, fix my water, take a drink, pop some potassium, and then I lay that out. I get my blocks and my strap and my pad, my knee pad, whether you say we need it or not. I just get it all out. It's a part of my
Hmm.
routine, right? Turn on my TV. I open my phone. I go to my schedule. So how do I stay consistent? The first thing I do is I try to have my workout scheduled a month in advance because I travel all over the world. I don't want to. You know what? If I leave up to the last second what my workout will be, it is not going to happen, is it? Right? I
Hmm.
need to plan it just like I plan my career, like I plan my relationships, like I plan holidays. So I try to schedule using the app. So if you don't have the app on your phone, if you don't use the laptop, if you don't AirPlay or have the app on your, I bought a brand new TV and I was really pissed because for whatever reason, it won't let me get the Manflow Yoga app on there, and
Mm,
I just AirPlay to it. So the first thing I
yeah.
do is I go to my schedule, boom, I open it up, I set the AirPlay up, I take a couple more sips of water, I turn the ceiling fan on, I open my doors and windows, have a nice cool day, and the first thing that starts my day is Manflow Yoga. And I'm also a man of faith in that, but I know like I'm going to start my day with yoga, and then I'll be better prepared for prayer, whatever
Hmm.
other aspect, because preparing my body prepares my mind, prepares my spirit, prepares my soul for the day. So if
Hmm.
you struggle with consistency, then whatever habit or patterns you need to develop. But for me, that's how I stay consistent. Like keeping in my mind how I felt and how I lived before and how I was on a path to some really miserable life. I mean, having 2 to 300 tumors is pretty difficult to deal with as it is, right?
Yeah.
But the yoga makes it a lot less problematic. So I just say, okay, here are the benefits. Here
Hmm.
are the consequences. You paid this price. You wasted at least 10 years of your life, going through the divorce, dealing with weight issues and all that in your 40s. Do you really want to do that with your 50s and your 60s? Because I'd love to do this career until I fall over dead at 84 or whatever.
Hmm.
So I have to be consistent. Remind me some of the other aspects of your question there, Bill.
I think that was great. So you talked about how you dealt with that discouragement, or I don't know if it was discouragement, but how you remember to stay consistent is you remembered
Mhm.
this is how bad it was. This is how bad it is if I don't do my workout. So I'm going to do it. So my next question leads into how long did it take you to start noticing results, and what were those results, and how quickly did it happen?
You know what? If I'm completely honest, I can say I started feeling results within the first 2 weeks. And
Hmm.
I think, and maybe even sooner, it's a little hard to remember back there. But what,
And
what I could,
were you doing it every day, Lee, or was it
yes,
three times a week?
I think since I restarted at the end of July, I think I took 2 days off. And the thing is, because and when I say low impact, I do not want people to hear that it can't be extremely strenuous. Okay.
Mhm.
To me, there's a big difference in strenuous and high impact. When I think of high impact, I think of jogging that's going to probably, you're inevitably going to have an injury from jogging, right? Whereas I never feel like I'm going to have an injury from yoga because I know I can moderate. When you teach us to breathe, that breathing puts me so in tune with my body. I can tell, like, okay, Dean says go to about a 7 or a 4, depending on what your goal is. And so for
Mhm.
me, I really try to be aware because I can't afford an injury. I just cannot afford it. But within the first couple of weeks, like I get frustrated because my hamstring's been tight all my life, and I've had a couple of pretty big tears when I was an athlete or even older.
Mhm.
You know, my hamstrings don't aren't as flexible as I'd like. But when you do, when we shift from a lunge back to where we straighten that leg, put it out in front of us, and I can tell a big difference in keeping my back straight and getting a good stretch. In the beginning, I couldn't curl my toes toward my body; it was too painful. Now I can curl those toes back and really feel a good. And then you'll remind us to tighten that left glute, and that body
Mm.
awareness, being able to do that. I'm like this will sound really weird. God, this is kind of embarrassing. I'll lay in bed and squeeze my legs like if I were trying to do MMA and just think,
Mhm.
oh my God, I can hold this like maxed out squeezing for a very long time without my breath changing. And if I tried to do that at the beginning, oh man, it'd
Mhm.
be a few seconds in your muscles. But so I'll do things to be like, like shoulder flexibility. When I
Mhm.
restarted, I could see my arms, and I can put my arms so far back now when we're doing certain poses, I can't see them. And that's just in, into July, August, and here we are mid September. So that's a month and a
Mhm.
half. The strength gains in my shoulders, right? The hard
Mhm.
thing I struggle with, bud, is not tensing up my neck. That's my struggle
Yeah.
is not. And you say that like, hey man, if your shoulders are in your ears, I'm like, hell, my shoulders are up above my head. I think, So you give us tips if people will just listen and trust, and don't. My suggestion is don't try to advance to a more difficult program than where you really should be.
Mhm.
Like be honest with yourself. And if there's a program where you're seeing gains and you're still challenged, by God, do it over again before you think, well, now I'm ready to do an airplane for, 2 minutes. No, stick in that program and repeat it. And that
Mhm.
would be one of my suggestions to folks like me that think, "Ah, I can't do this. Don't try to
Mhm.
advance too quick because you're feeling gains. Don't think that means that you're ready for the next one. It may mean repeating them and finding out that, wow, I feel, because there are some days I'll do one of your workouts and I feel loose and strong and great, and I'll do that same workout 2 or 3 weeks later and I feel a little more tight and tense and like,
Mhm.
oh, this wasn't as easy as the last time, right? And you talk about that, which is very helpful to us.
Mhm. Yeah, your body's gonna change day to day. So I want to get back into some of those benefits that you noticed early
Mhm.
on, just to kind of encourage people to stick with it until they notice results. So you talked about noticing improvements in the workouts themselves. How
Mm.
did you notice those benefits in day to day life? Was it, maybe it was going up and down stairs, maybe it was you noticed you were less stressed, and I don't take those examples directly from me, but I'm curious for in your own life, what did you notice?
Man, you triggered a couple of really good memories. So after my divorce, I said, man, I'm gonna remodel my house, right? So first thing I did was I went out and bought a refrigerator, new stove, and microwave. And the refrigerator I brought home in my pickup because you can't get a delivery truck. You need 4-wheel drive to get up to my house, going up switchbacks. So I bought, like, I didn't realize how big it was. It's a big ass refrigerator. So I pull it up and a storm's coming, so I need to get it unloaded. Well, I'm by myself and it's in the bed of a truck, and I have a ramp to my back door or I have steps on the front. And I realized, I'm by myself. So I put this lifting strap around this big ass refrigerator, and I had to move it to the edge, lean it on the edge, and I had to do a squat with it down gently onto the wood platform there, kind of a step, big step. And it's a big step in that refrigerator. And I thought, you know what? Had I not been doing Manflow yoga, I'm not sure I would have successfully got it out of that truck because the flexibility and strength in my shoulders and the flexibility for me to go deep in a squat. I was able to
Hmm.
lower it slowly all the way down with no, and then roll it up here, get it in. I thought, man, if I had not restarted Manflow Yoga, and it's not like I have a neighbor, they're down in the valley and it'd take them, a while to get up here. And
Mm.
so there's nobody to call, and a storm was coming. I didn't want to get rained on. That was a big deal. And that's just everyday life. I mean, that's just simple.
Yeah.
Right? In my photography, like photographing the jaguars in Brazil, sometimes though I've sat the longest I've sat, we had a pair of jaguars mating, and we sat in the same spot in a boat for probably close to 2.5 hours. Well, sometimes I'm having to twist at a weird angle, and when you have us do, oh good grief, I'm so terrible. Warrior One or Warrior Two, where we then kneel and put an arm up towards the sky,
Oh yeah.
and what's that one?
Side angle.
Yeah, side angle. See, you would think I remember this crap.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like I know the poses or something.
Yeah,
It's
it's like
crazy.
you're an expert, right? That's why I ask you. Well, when I first started that, man, when I'd start to raise an arm, my back sounded like a cereal commercial. Snap, crackle, pop, 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 pop. Man, now I can
Yeah.
go so far back. I have no popping, complete flex. My tumors don't hurt. There are some things we do that my tumors will hurt. But if you think about it, I can sit in a boat and turn sideways and photograph for extreme extended periods of time. The muscular strength and flexibility in my shoulders, I can hold my big lens up for a very long time, which means I'm not missing shots. I live up here in a remote area. If I got to deal with jacking my truck up on a rough road to change a tire, I jump out of the. So 2 years ago, no, further than that, like 5 years ago, if I'd have tried to jump out of the bed of my truck onto a hard ground wearing boots, I probably would have been in real big trouble. Man, I jump out of the back wearing boots, no big deal now. And so those are real practical, beneficial benefits that every single day I get to experience by doing this.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. So, you talked about you've had on and off periods with doing the workouts. How has that led into you approaching or improving other areas of your life? And so I'm curious. I'm gonna just so when you started Manful Yoga, how were you pretty big at that time?
So the first time when I started, I was probably 270 something. And
Okay.
I got down to 220. And right now I'm a couple of pounds from 220. Yeah, just
About how long did that take you to get down to 220? Do
and
you
I was
remember?
doing keto then, not carnivore. That probably took me 2.5 to 3 months, but it went
50
quicker
pounds in
this.
3 months? Wow.
Mhm. And this time I've gone quicker by doing just carnivore. So I generally eat between
Mm,
11:30 and 4, generally one meal, and then maybe a snack. So I'm literally doing just meat, seafood, butter, and eggs, and then water. And my little treat is an occasional, like sugar-free diet soda thing. And that I know it. I used to drink bourbon, scotch every now and then, all that. I also gave that up completely just because your liver shifts to dealing with alcohol instead of ketones. And
mhm,
I'm kind of a hardcore guy if you haven't figured that out on here yet. But
mhm,
yeah, so I feel amazing. But let me be honest. If I was just doing carnivore, I would have lost weight, but I would not have the strength. I would have the flexibility to do my job. Yeah, I'd feel better. I mean, that's a no-brainer, right? But I can tell you that doing the diet without the man flow yoga, I think it would be 20% of the benefit instead of the 100% of the benefit that I feel now. If someone said, well, Lee, should I do carnivore or the man flow yoga? I'd say start the man flow yoga first and then work on
mm,
your diet. Start building strength and flexibility and feel the improvement. And then, yes, move to either keto, carnivore, or something like that. I'm from West Texas. I'm not a vegan or vegetarian fan. So if you are, I don't care. Go eat it in your safe space. But for me, the way I feel now, I'm a testimony. And my doctor was worried about my blood stuff because I was eating all this, and they tested it. Well, we need to do a scan of your arteries. I had zero plaque, nothing. My blood is phenomenal. I test my blood sugar. It's generally between like 80 and 107. It almost never varies. So, I've probably read 40 to 50 books on nutrition in the last 2.5 to 3 years. And when I'm like, to me, man flow yoga and carnivore or keto is a beautiful blend. You talk about, I've seen some of your videos about testosterone and let's just be blunt honest, erections and all that, right? Holy
Yeah.
crap, man, guys, he ain't lying. You do carnivore or keto and man flow yoga, it is crazy the benefits in your life that you're going to see. So in all areas.
That's good to hear. Um, so I'm one other question I like to ask is how has community been helpful to your overall health and wellness? I mean, you sound like you're a very disciplined guy. You probably could have done all of this on your own, but I'm curious for you, how has community helped you when it comes to your health and wellness?
Well, I have a rich colleague of fellow photographers around the world, and I have a huge online community because of what I do as a living. I mean, if I weren't a professional photographer, I'd be off social media probably yesterday, right? But
Hmm.
so when people see your images and I was high energy before. I had a client ask me not too long ago, "Do you have an off switch?" I said, "Yes," when I go to sleep. And the reality is when you hear those affirmations, my two love languages are physical touch and words of affirmation. So words of
Mm,
affirmation are very encouraging, and that's the way I was raised. My parents were very affirming to me and very loving, and so for me, I don't need anybody to encourage me, you know.
mm,
But let's all be honest, when you hear words of affirmation that they can see the benefits, right? When they see you, kneel down with one leg completely out to the side, the other leg in a crouch, and you're rock steady nailing shots, and they don't even want to take a knee. Well, you see the difference, because most of my I'm usually the young buck on my workshops, right? I'm the kid, and when I see that, I don't want to be 74 and not be able to kneel down and get the shot, or lay down on the sand and be worried about getting back up. So,
mm,
you know, I can truly be honest, say no, I wouldn't need community. I'm a part of Manflow Yoga Engage, and lately I've been so busy and wrapped up in work, I haven't been able to participate as much. But for me, when and I hope to get back in there, seeing the comments from other guys, and what's cool is the diversity of men. There are some extremely heavy, haven't been working out much, to guys who have been doing this for a long time, and they can do some of the crazy poses. I think I'll be honest. I think for most people, they need that community. I mean, I live up here on
mhm,
top of a mountain, kind of by myself, so I'm kind of able to take care of it myself kind of guy, right? But let's
mhm,
be honest, not a lot of people are wired that way. So my recommendation is, if you need accountability, if you need that encouragement, I mean, Dean's put together a program, and believe me, I'm not getting anything as a result of this except hopefully seeing other men be able to tell people like, "Holy crap, you're not going to believe what happened in my life." Um, then I would really recommend the Manflow Engage, because the resources are there, and you just have to make the time to be a part of it.
yeah. Well, I remember you made a pretty cool. You made a very inspiring post when you talked about your experience with carnivore, and I think I think a lot of people. I think a lot of people in general, when it comes to talking about the carnivore diet, people are like, really, all you eat is meat. But then you look at the results, and you're like, oh, guess I guess it's working. So
Yeah,
yeah.
what I tell people is, we all have different digestive systems. We all have different issues, and I have some psoriasis, and they think psoriasis is liver, right? And then they think these tumors may be a result of liver issues. And I got to thinking, I love Brussels sprouts, but when I eat them, it's not that I get inflamed. I was hospitalized as a teenager, and to this day, black beans, squash of most kinds, avocados. If I eat one, I'm going to be in extreme pain. And they did all kinds of tests. They don't understand it, right? And most plants have chemical defenses. Well, and I mean, I'm just going to be a smart ass in case people haven't figured out that I am one. Live like a lion, not a cow, right? Like lions gorge on a ton of meat. They digest it, and nobody would say lions are lazy or fat or not energetic, right? And
Hmm.
I just look at 300 some thousand years of our history. We've been eating the way we've been eating now for about 300, which is a drop in the bucket. And I'm not saying
Hmm.
everybody needs to be on carnivore keto, but man, if you want to have just off the charts energy, if you want to feel like you're 20 in your 50s or 60s again, man, I am living proof. And everybody goes, well, isn't it expensive? Well, yeah, I eat ribeye 3 or 4 times a week, but how much money are you blowing on chips, hot dogs, bread, ice cream, your cigarettes, whatever the crap it is? I guarantee you it's a whole lot more than good quality meat when you're eating one, maybe two meals a day, right? So don't
Hmm.
let price. I mean, I get a fish shipment from a company out of Alaska. I get good quality meat from different places. You know what? You just have to be self disciplined, right? I mean, you talk about that all the time.
Hmm. Yeah. Cool. Well, those are some good tips. All right, let's go into our rapid fire section because I think you're going to have some good responses here.
Okay.
So, what do you think is the one habit, belief, or a mindset that has helped you the most with your overall health and wellness?
How long do I want to enjoy every single day of my life? Because I don't know when my last day is. Like I see people who waste their life in different ways, and I was wasting mine some in certain ways. And I thought, you know what, man? Like, Dean, this is what is today, September 16th, right? I've got my birthday's coming up in 9 days. I'll be 56. Well, this is the only September 16th, 2024 I'm going to have outside of a Marvel movie, right? So, what am I going to make out of today? I mean, am I going to just like I like to say, I wake up and kick every day right in the balls and just get rolling. And man, I like to suck the wind out. Like I like to just fall into bed, like knowing that, man, I tore up September 16th, right? And that
Mm,
doesn't always mean I'm active or crazy or out in the field. But by God, did I live my best life that God gave me that one day? And I don't know about you, but when you walk around America, I mean, I'm in airports all the time. Hell, half of them don't even get dressed. They're wearing their damn slippers and their pajamas, and it's embarrassing. I'm like, is that your best life? Like
mm,
maybe it is, maybe it is, maybe it's not. But I don't know about you, but you know what, Dean? Like, we aren't guaranteed tomorrow, right? So I want to take the most out of every day. Well, there might be some men in their 30s that want to lift hard. Like, there's a part of me that misses lifting, but I think, man, what if I was lifting heavy and I do something to a finger or I tear a bicep and I can't hold my camera? What would that do for me? So I'm
mm.
doing what I can to have the best life every single day. That's my belief, man. Is like I'm a Tigger. Like Eeyores wear the crap out of me. God bless them. God loves them. But I'm a Tigger, man, and I want to be around other Tiggers. And I think, and I'm not saying Eeyores. Eeyores bore the hell out of me. I'll just be honest, right? But I want to live my life as a Tigger as much as possible every single day.
All right, good answer.
You're getting answers. You're like,
What's
holy hell, I didn't expect that.
No, this is good. Everyone has unique answers. It's cool. What is one thing that you do for your health that you believe is often overlooked or undervalued?
Man, honestly, so in today's culture, so I'm just going to talk about who I am. I told you I'm a man of faith. I was a church planner for a while. Started church from scratch. I live in the darkest skies in the lower 48, right? So when you walk out at night here, if there's no moon and I turn my house lights off, it's too dark to walk around. And
Wow.
the busyness of the cities, the busyness, the noise. Like when I come back to Austin to see my daughter and whatnot, the first thing I notice is how bad it smells, how loud it is, how there's so much visual stimuli. Like it is absurd. And when I lived there for many years, like you don't realize it, right? And you come out here, and in the quiet still of night, you're not alone. However, people believe, I'm not here to push on anybody, but I know there's a God, man. I'm out here all the time, right? And if you aren't grounded in something like that, if you just believe this life is random and then when you die there's nothing, man, I feel sorry. And I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying that when I stand out here and look at the night sky, it's overwhelming. I mean, I'm a little pissant thing in the middle of this massive universe, but my life matters, your life matters. And so for me, I think having a strong faith connection, because you have to be rooted and grounded in something. And
Mm,
honestly, as much as I love my photography, if I thought that the day I died, my only legacy was my photography, I'd probably be a little depressed about that, right? But my legacy is in my daughter and in her family and in the people I've impacted throughout my life. And so for me, I would say that having some kind of faith-based connection. And again, I'm not here pushing anything on anybody. I'm just telling them my story. That is critical for me because every day I wake up, I say, you know what, I am grateful to God that I have this day. I mean, think about this. Like, I'm so grateful that I found Manflow Yoga. What would my life be like, right, if I hadn't bought the book? What would my life be like if I hadn't researched and read about keto and carnivore diets? What would my life be like if I didn't have the funds to buy meat to do carnivore diet? What would my life be like if I weren't out here in the middle of nowhere communing with God on a daily basis and then getting to see, Dean, when I was young, my family, they were teachers. We didn't go on international trips. I mean, they spent all their money on our sports. And to think, I've been to the Galapagos Islands 8 times now. The owner of the company's been 50, so I'm not quite caught up with him. But how many people get to go there 8 times? I mean, if I didn't have somebody to give thanks to and gratitude, I don't know, that wouldn't work for me. So for me, having a good, strong faith commitment, and if I had to have a second thing in there, self discipline, I put
Mm.
self discipline right there up there with it.
Yeah, it was nice to hear that answer. I think that
Thank
is
you.
something that's not often talked a lot, and I like that you also do it from a from a non-denominational standard. I think being able to appreciate nature and recognizing that I don't go as hiking as much as I used to, unfortunately, but I remember when I first started enjoying hiking, and I really got to the point where it was like clicking for me. It wasn't that you were going to be in nature, it was you were going to be part of nature. You got in and you got to a point where you're like, I'm just one part of this. It wasn't I'm not in nature, I'm part of nature
Yes.
in this
Yes.
when you're in that.
Yeah. I have javelina. I've had mountain lion, back tracks on my back deck. I have ringtail raccoon. I have wildlife just all, I can sit here. You'll hear roadrunners doing their bill claddle out back. And I mean, I'm just surrounded, and, mental health is a big thing in our culture today. And of course we've lost a lot of our mental health services and stuff. So I think the outdoors and connecting and communing with nature is incredibly important, for mental health too. For guys that are out there depressed, struggling, you're caught up in this cycle of go to work, live for the weekend. Man, find a way to immerse yourself in nature. You're there in Austin. You got the green belt, you got the parks, you got all kinds of amazing
Right.
areas. So don't let there be excuses for not connecting with that, because it's very important in life. And again, I'm lucky to get to live where I live. A lot of people couldn't live this lifestyle partially off grid and be by yourself on top of a mountain much of the year. But man, people who come out, the number one thing they get intimidated by pretty quick, the quiet. They can't handle the
Quiet.
quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I got a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
What's the most stressful part of your day-to-day life?
Day to day, I tell you right now, with the state of the economy being on the forefront of tourism,
Mm,
right now it's
okay.
tough booking out trips. When economies get bad, the first thing people cut back on, tourism, right, travel. They're going to cut those expenses. And all my life, God's just taken care of me. It's the weirdest thing. Like, I can never, I don't worry about, do I have a big savings? Some months I have a lot of money in my account. Some months I have little, and I just trust God to provide. But if I had to say one thing in particular, it's in this right now, the economy, the finances, getting paid consistently, selling trips.
Mm,
For me, I would say, another stressor, is worrying about the world my grandsons are going to grow up in. Those two are up there. And you just, the fact that you asked about stress, I will tell you a benefit that you talk about pretty good, but I don't think guys realize is what yoga and the breathing, what you do for being able to handle stress. Like, I didn't post this on social media, but during our Brazil trip, the owner of the company got very sick at our lodge before we went, and we were already kind of in the middle of nowhere. And then we were going to go 5 hours down an unpaved road, to catch a boat to go 30 minutes, or I'm sorry, an hour upriver to get on a riverboat in the absolute middle of nowhere in the Pantanal of Brazil. And he was sick, and I said, "Man, you shouldn't go." And he decided to go anyways. And I had to do a medical evacuation of him 3 days later, where we had to coordinate a plane landing on a grass runway, a boat ride to get him there. We had to pick him up, get him in the boat. And he's one of my best friends, and I'm literally thinking he's going to die. The doctor later told us he was 3 to 4 hours away from cardiac arrest. And then I had to
Wow.
do all that. And then I had to go right back that afternoon with clients out in the field photographing jaguars. There was no time to sit and worry about my friend. There was no time to wonder about the future of the company I'm working. You know what I mean? Like, and honestly, by doing Manflow yoga, eating right, my ability to handle that stress, it was hard. When I came home, my body, I kind of felt like it went, you know, but I'll be honest, I really think that the breathing and between faith, the breathing, man flow, feeling better, eating right, sleeping well, that
Mhm.
would have had. Let's go pre man flow yoga and pre carnivore and keto diet. I would have been screwed in royal ways, my man. So I
Mm.
thank you because I mean, when this isn't just about having more flexibility to be able to reach back and wash the middle of your back. This is about living your life better.
Yeah, that's a cool story. Thank you for
Mhm.
sharing that.
Exactly.
All right, last question. What is your best piece of advice for men who want to be healthier?
All right, good. Since most of them live in an area where not like I do, where you have the quiet, the peace, and all that, and the stillness. You're caught up in the hecticness, the hect. Easy for me to say.
Whatever that noun is.
Hectic and busyness of everyday life in the city. You're
Mhm.
commuting, you're stressed being on I-35, or I mean, I'm giving an Austin example. Whatever,
Yep,
pick
that's it.
whatever highway you're around, right? You're worried about the economy. You're worried about your job, most likely, if you're like most Americans. You're paying higher groceries. You got kids. You got a wife that maybe got some relational issues with. I mean, there's all you got some credit card debt. You're not going to be able to go on vacation. You're just surrounded by negativity and stressors. You've got to decide what's most important in the long run. And I shared this. I think in my post on the engaged community, I shared that a great one of my favorite quotes came from all people, John Tesh. So don't stop the podcast. Listen to what John Tesh had to say. He said, to say you don't have the time is not a statement of fact, it's a statement of priority. Okay.
Mhm.
So if you say you don't have the time, that if you just don't have the time for, eating right, the time for shopping for good food, the time for doing man flow yoga, that's a statement of priority. Maybe if you got your kids in 27 different, school activities, maybe you need to cut it back to 15. Right. And this is coming from a man who family was so dedicated to his school activities that his mom and dad ended up divorcing because they didn't have a relationship amongst themselves because they put everything into myself and my brother. Right.
Mhm.
So make the commitment. Tell your wife, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your roommates, whatever. Hey guys, listen, I'm gonna do my best to be quiet, but get headphones. I bought different headphones. I bought some over the year, like portable headphones, like wireless, but over the year, not the full ones, but smaller ones. So because AirPods wouldn't stay in my ears during yoga, so you don't disturb people. If you got an iPad, if you got an iPhone, man, you don't need a huge screen to do Manflow yoga. I mean, because Dean is constantly talking and walking you through everything. Just tell everybody, I need you to keep me accountable. And if I don't get up, ask me why, right? Like if I'm not doing it, if I said I was going to do it, create that schedule, make space in your life for that. Because what's going to happen is you're going to die younger than you planned on. And so you're not going to get to do all the things, the whole American concept of working your ass off to retirement. How many, I can't tell you, I mean, my clients do that. And then 3 years later, they can't go do anything, right? Don't wait till
Yeah.
retirement, start living your life. By God, live it now. You may not make it to retirement. So my encouragement and what I would say to every man out there and any women listening too, that this might be applicable to, is just say man flow yoga or in indoor eating right are going to be my priority. I have to create the time. So again, if you say you don't have the time, that's just statement of priority. So, I
Mhm.
love football as much as anybody. Well, hell, have the game on, turn the volume down, put Dean on the side on your phone and do your yoga while the game's on, or record it and watch it later and save 3 hours of your life, right? So I mean, there is the time to do this. And Dean, I
Mhm.
mean, you've obviously got an incredibly successful business, and I know how busy you are and all that. But I remember on the one of the few engaged live events I got to participate in. You were lifting in the background while the camera was on, right? So, guys, if you got a
Mm.
Zoom meeting at work, if you can participate, why not do stuff then? I mean, if you got to turn your camera off, like whatever.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
That
And
makes
I was just watching there. I wasn't leading that meeting. I wasn't involved. I just
no,
wanted to
that's
see
right.
it.
That's
So
right.
that's why I
No.
was lifting in the background.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But even if you
Yeah. I
were,
think it's
if you
a
were talking to us, like who would be? Why complain? Like, you know what, Dean's making time for both. Heck yeah. I mean, that wouldn't bother me in the least. I'd be like, okay, there's a man who's making sure he gets done what he needs to get done. You know.
yeah, I appreciate that. And I like what you said about priorities. I like to I've reframed this in my mind. I do this pretty well now, but instead of saying I couldn't do it, I say I did not make it a priority. Because that's the reality is I had the time, but it just didn't make it onto the list of priorities.
That's right.
So
That's right. And there's some
yeah.
days, like there's some travel days where I fly overnight, and I don't have, like coming back from Brazil, man, that was 3 flights and all through the night. I landed in Austin, then I immediately drove 8 hours home. Man, I couldn't make that. There's no way, Pretty sure the people on the plane would got pissed at me if I'd have broke out my yoga mat in the middle of the flight, right? But
That's what the galleyway is for.
that's
That's what that area where they have the drinks.
that's
That's
right.
for.
Wouldn't that be
Until someone tells you to sit down.
I'm sure if I'd have broken the happy baby right in the middle of the plane, they would have said, "We're diverting this flight. We're going to get this guy off this plane now."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh well.
yeah.
Well, Lee, I want to thank you for coming on and telling us your story and these tidbits and strategies and advice that's worked for you. And I just want to say for someone who's who's gone through your condition with having several hundred tumors on your body, but still doing everything that you can. It's really cool. I mean, it's inspiring. So you must be doing something right, in addition to the yoga and the diet, and there's got to be other things that you're doing well. So thank you for sharing that
Mhm.
all with
Yeah,
us.
you bet. You bet. I want to show you something before we go. All right. They always say,
Let's
right, a
do it.
cowboy should not squat with his spurs on. And I would not have been able to do this, honest to God, right? I would not have been able to do this probably a few months ago. But Dean, tell me, brother, how's that, my man? With your boots on, your
Hey,
hat, and your belt. All
hey,
right.
that looks solid to me, man. I appreciate that.
Seriously, bro, that's all. Thank God for Manflow Yoga, man, and think about being able to be in that position and photograph. Right, huge
Yeah,
benefit, man, huge benefit.
it's
Truly, Dean. Let
it's a
me
great
say how much I appreciate you. You've never been one to seek that stuff. You told me before we ever recorded, hey, this isn't just about promoting. Well, I am because I appreciate the work you do. I appreciate because it's not easy to just come up with the way you do things, and you're on top of it. And for me, it's probably one of the best value things that I've ever been a part of. So truly, from the bottom of my heart, man, thank you.
I appreciate it, Lee, and thank you for trusting me and also for putting in the work to show that it works. So,
You bet. You bet.
all right, guys. Well, Lee, once again, thank you. I appreciate it, guys. Listening in, I hope this inspires you to be a better man, and I will see you on the next episode.